Hey everybody, this is Kenny.
And this is Keenan.
We're with Cinema Fanboys, and we'll be reviewing Hellraiser today. For Halloween specifically. We didn't get a chance to review too many horror films this month, but Keenan wanted to review Hellraiser, which we had both seen for the first time this month actually. So this will be our Halloween video for the month. So we apologize
I
for no videos.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that this was your first time seeing it as well.
Yeah, I
I
saw it
thought
two
you
weeks
saw it
ago.
already.
No, I saw it 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
That's why I
okay.
wanted to review it earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Um, well, let's kind of get into it. I mean, well, what did tell everyone what you thought about this movie? I'm kind of curious to your thoughts.
I really enjoyed the film. I didn't know much about Hellraiser except for like the character of Pinhead, which he doesn't have a name in the first movie, but um, he's just called the lead Cenobite or
Mhm.
Cenobite.
Oh,
But
do you want to explain what a Cenobite is for people who haven't seen this movie and aren't
well,
familiar?
basically the villains in this film are these beings from this like dimensional hell. This different dimension is kind of like hell, and it's called and they're called Cenobites, and they're kind of like people, but they torture their victims with like hooks and like weird shit like that. It's like some weird kinky shit, like some it's like BDSM.
Sadomasochism.
It's like masochism, yeah.
Sadomasochism. Yeah.
To the point where they rip people's skins off and shit like that. If you look it up on Google, you can pretty much see what I'm talking about with the Cenobites, and you'll see them in pop culture things. You know, anything that's pop culture, you'll see them in like Family Guy and stuff like this. Like you'll see references to them, and so they're all about pain, like the like the like like people who can't get enough of this kind of like weird kinky pain essentially, and they have to go to like the most extreme level, which is what the Cenobites kind of represent. Because in the beginning of the film, the character that summons them by accident, he's kind of looking for otherworldly like sensations and pleasures, and accidentally activating that cube that they were in, that activates the portal to their universe, to their realm. He ends up finding out that he shouldn't have done that, and that there's such thing as a limit essentially. But that's not necessarily spoiling anything. What I just said, that's just the very beginning of the film. Um, but
Uh,
for
ju-
but what? Go ahead.
Just a heads up, if a movie was made in like the 80s, like I don't feel like I'm not really concerned about spoiling it because it's like it's an old movie. Like it's most likely they're gonna and like just reading about it, they're gonna end up spoiling it for themselves.
Yeah, but honestly, there's a lot of great things from the '80s that people from the new generation, like well, honestly, they're the same generation as us. They're also millennials, but I call them neo millennials because they're a little bit newer. But a lot of
Gen
people,
Z, I'm technically Gen Z. I'm younger than you, so
but essentially the people from you're making me sound old, dude.
I'm just fucking with you, dog.
But essentially the people and there's a lot of people that haven't seen Hellraiser, and it's still being watched by new people all the time, every year near Halloween. So these '80s films, yes, most people should have seen them by now or know about them at least. There's some
Not
films
should.
out.
I'm not saying they should have seen. I'm just saying like
Well,
just
now, yeah, I know what you mean. Like
shit is
there's
spoiled.
there's some movies, for example, that like that at this point they're completely spoiled because you've seen them referenced in so many things, like like Star Wars and so many other things. You've
Yeah,
seen them
like I'm
referenced
your
in
father and everything. Like
yeah, just a bunch of things.
that meme.
There's so many things that have already been spoiled, by pop culture. But there's also but something like Hellraiser, not everyone knows what the hell Hellraiser is. They need to like discover
Hmm.
themselves. It's a very kind of niche horror film, you could say. Like he's considered a horror icon classic along with Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and all the others, but he's not as popular as them. Unless you're really into horror, or you just know your horror movie villains, you don't really know who he is because you usually just associate horror movie villains with one of those slashers. And Pinhead's not really much of a slasher. He kind of tortures people, but in the first film he doesn't really do much per se. He does more in the later films, but
He's
given up.
barely in it.
Yeah, he's barely in it. But and that's the case. That's the case with some horror films from the '80s, like in Friday the 13th. In the beginning of Friday the 13th, you never see Jason in the first Friday the 13th. You see him as a kid, but you never see him killing people. It's his mom killing people in Friday the 13th.
Mm.
And later on he comes back in as an adult and he starts killing people off. So there's a difference. They did that with a lot of 80s movies before they fully fleshed out their characters per se, you know.
All right, so
But
we're gonna kind of devolve into. Well, hold on. Do you want to
what was
just
the
kind of
what
like?
was the first question you asked me though? I was gonna get to it, but you told me to explain what the Cenobites were.
Yeah, I was just asking what were your thoughts overall about the movie?
I really
Like,
enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Like I'm gonna start off on one thing, and then you can continue off of that. But what I enjoyed was the fact that it wasn't afraid to go certain places with like the violence and the horror. Like when it came to like the chains and like the hooks and stuff on people's skin. It wasn't afraid to show really fucked up shit like that. And you know, there was other horror films before that
they
that also
could
showed stuff like
they could
that.
have
But
showed more. The two
yeah, they could have showed more, but it was the first film. They didn't want to risk it per se. You know, they might not have had the biggest budget either. So you know,
no, it wasn't even that. Like Rita Agbonis, the production company, like made Clive Barker like cut out a lot, like a lot of scenes. Like there was supposed to be um not even just the fact like it was violent or anything. Like there was a lot of creative decisions that he wanted to make that they wouldn't let him do because like I guess there's creative differences that kind of annoyed me, and I'll get to that in a second. But I kind of feel like this stunted the film's potential in a way. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was the production company I was talking. I have gripes with reading about it. Go ahead, finish. Sorry, I didn't mean to
that's okay. That happened. That tends to happen with a lot of films that come from books because it was a book by Clive Barker first, and then he decided to make it into a film. But the original novella is called The Hellbound Heart. But the film itself, I had no issues with. It was a standard '80s horror film. But it was unique. It was unique compared to Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and even Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was very unique because it wasn't a straight up slasher. It was more of like a supernatural kind of dimensional horror because of the fact that the villains weren't necessarily the Cenobites, but it was the main girl's uncle who comes back in the beginning of the film, and
he's the real villain. Yeah,
he's the real villain. The guy
That's
in the beginning of the film who's trying to find these extra pleasures in life and ends up
uncle. Yeah.
Yeah, I said uncle. Yeah.
What?
So it's Ashley Lawrence's character. It was her uncle, and he was the main villain. And she essentially summons the Cenobites later on to help. So it's just but they're still villainous, but they're not the main villains until later on in the other films. But the film's different compared to all the other '80s horror films at the time. It was something different because it focused more on like how should I explain it? It focused on a type of horror that wasn't just your typical like persons walking around the house scared. It was more of like something's going on that you don't know about in the background, and then when you find out, it's like running into a horrible situation and you had no idea what's going on, and then you're like, oh shit,
Yeah. I kind of felt like I didn't really feel like the Cenobites were evil. You know what I mean? I felt like they're more ambivalent. They're kind of like how Greek gods are in Greek mythology. They kind of do what the hell they want. You know what I mean? What's interesting?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they just there's a word for it besides ambivalent, but like yeah, they just kind of do whatever they feel like they want, like just to fuck with people, I guess. But really ran by like their desires and everything. Yeah, but is that all the positive stuff you had to say about it, pretty much, or?
I like the characters. They weren't amazing, but I liked Ashley Lawrence, who's I like that these horror films have like a female lead that's takes risk and isn't like a total. Like that's why I like '80s horror films because the female leads they're you could complain and say they're all the same, but in a way they're also a little bit different. And I just find it funny how the main girl, Ashley Lawrence's character, was just able to just kind of just able to get the Cenobites help and convince them, and it's just something different that she sided with the monsters for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The acting was decent. It was all right. It was a little bit hokey sometimes, but it's an '80s horror film. You got to give it some leeway with stuff like that.
Do you?
One thing I
I disagree with
want
that a little bit, but go ahead.
one thing I want to praise a lot is the visual effects when it came to the practical effects on like with Frank, trying to get his body back, and he's changing forms, and his skin is gone, and just the visual effects when it comes to like the practical effects look fantastic. It looked real. I'm glad there wasn't like a bunch of CGI. The only CGI really was maybe when they were opening a portal, but for the most part, a lot of it was just practical effects. Even that monster thing and like the hell and like Pinhead's realm is like a prosthetic. I praise it on like the visual look of it. So
Yeah,
go ahead. That's pretty much what I got to say about
I think
it.
that's pretty. Yeah, that's a good thought. Like I would agree with that too. Like I really like like the effects and like costume design are really interesting. You know what I
What did you
mean?
watch? What did you watch this on Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Yeah,
Did you?
yeah, because the Hulu version was giving me problems, but
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm debating whether I should go into my negatives or my positives first. I think I'll just go into the positives since that's the order we're doing it in now.
yeah, go
Doing it
ahead
in
with
now.
positives, and then we'll get into any negatives we have.
Well, I guess you can say like for the time period, like I think a good thing to note is like this is actually fairly comedic for an 80s horror film of that time. Or not comedic, it's fairly serious. Most 80s movies at that time were fairly comedic, and this is like really serious. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of time there's not as much comedy. Sorry, I kind of had a brain fart there. But yeah, this movie was pretty serious in tone, so I thought that was pretty interesting. Um, I think the whole concept was very like original. Like Roger Ebert came out as saying like this was like movie was bankrupt of imagination. So I guess he would have disagreed with me. But I thought it was like an interesting little idea. But I haven't read the novel, so I don't think many people have. But I really do admire like Clive Barker. Even though he admitted to like never making a movie before or being completely unfamiliar with like film in general. Like he had the bravery to like make what he wanted and put his vision on screen, and you know what I mean. So he even said like he had like trouble knowing the difference between a 35 millimeter lens and a 10
Yeah.
millimeter lens. He said that if you made a made a plate of spaghetti and you showed me that, like I would probably, and you said it was a lens. He said I would probably believe you. He literally said that. So I mean, props to him for like going out and making a movie that he wanted. And this movie did fairly well. So I'm looking at the budget. I think it was like $900,000, so $1 million in budget. Like the budget was that high, and the gross was about like 14 million. So that's really good. It made its money back.
Yeah.
Especially like since this is considered like a cult movie.
Yeah.
I think it was like shown in originally like in Prince Charles Cinema in Leicester. That was like where it's first shown. The screening was. So it wasn't really distributed. I mean,
It wasn't distributed widely.
yeah, and it had a lot of trouble, especially like in places like Ontario, Canada. Like they weren't trying to censor it or like cut a lot out. Even more than the producers cut out, mind you.
Yeah.
But that's getting into my negatives. But yeah, I thought this movie was fun. Oh, Kenny, what would you give this out of 10? Do you think?
I had a good time with it, and honestly, like I don't have too many complaints. I guess the only complaint I would give it, I don't have any negatives, so I'll just say my negative right now. Only complaints I would have would be some characters just. I mean, I guess they were supposed to be this way. Like, I mean, like Kirsty's dad in the film, he's kind of a little bitch, but that's the point of the film. But honestly, I don't have any complaints except I want to see more. So yes, I agree with what Ebert said back in the day that it just you could feel
Bankrupt of imagination.
you could feel the imagination. Yeah, you could feel that it's imaginative, but you could feel that the studio fucking restricted it in certain ways. You could feel the potential it has.
Hell yeah, dude. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
And and I'm gonna have to give it like an fuck. It's not a perfect movie, but Out of the horror films that I've seen, I'm gonna have to give it an 8. It's a very good film. It's a very good horror film, perfect for Halloween time. It's different from the others, but I've seen other weird horror films with different kind of premises similar to just, I mean, this is only the first film. I haven't seen all the other ones yet, but from what I've heard from JD, they've definitely expanded upon like the lore of these characters and like the world that they inhabit. So I need to see the sequels, and thankfully the second one is on Netflix. It is a direct continuation with Kirsty's character. So
we might review that soon, maybe. Who knows?
So not maybe in the future, but
yeah, not making any promises.
Yeah, don't make any promises, but essentially, yeah, I give it a solid 8, because if for a 9 or 10, it has to be something that really blew me away. But it was just a good horror film that you could watch with some friends or by yourself for Halloween, and it works. And it made me an Ashley Lawrence fan, because now I like Ashley Lawrence and she still looks good. So I'll say that right now. I don't care. So and that's Kirsty's actress, like the younger girl, the main heroine, not the crazy bitch from earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, I give it.
What's her face? Julia.
She did a good job too.
Yeah.
She did a good job too. But yeah,
she was my favorite.
But I love how active Ashley Lawrence is with her fans still, because I follow her on Instagram, and she really is active with her fans, because people still like Hellraiser a lot, and all the actors are really, the actor for Pinhead and all these people are still, they're really good. They're really good with the fans, so that's always a plus for me. So I give it an 8. It's a good horror film, and I really enjoyed it. If you're looking for something weird or just otherworldly for Halloween, just something different, give us a watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a refresher compared to like the same shit that's done and everything else, because this film has some imagination to it. So
yeah, well, I do have kind of a few problems with it, but I would definitely recommend watching this. This movie is a lot of fun. I mean, not a lot of fun. I mean, it's a fun movie. Like you'll like it. Like it's a good horror movie, decent horror movie. If I had to rate it, I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. And I mean, but the problems like with the production studio, like the production studio, like I feel like they held this film back a lot. I feel like there's a much better film here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That could have been the idea had so much potential, but they had to like screw with it. Like, I'm really like impressed that like this movie, it took 10 weeks to make, and there's a lot of things I like about it and everything. But one of the biggest, like, here, I actually wrote some stuff down here, is like, obviously, like I mentioned at the beginning of the review, like the censorship kind of messed with me. I'm not for censorship for the sake of censorship, you know what I mean? And the director wanted to kind of did what the studio wanted at this, because he wanted his movie to do well. He didn't want to get an X rating, because that's kind of like a death sentence. Like, not a death sentence. Your movie's not going to make its budget back if you make it X rated. You know what I'm saying? The only person that could have got away with that was like Stanley Kubrick with Clockwork Orange. But at that point in this 1971, when Clockwork Orange was made, like he was like an iconic director. So like his career was already, he could basically do what he wanted at this point. This was Clive Barker's first movie. Mm-hmm. So like he kind of had to, and it's not his fault. Like I feel like he could have made a way better movie here if it wasn't for this production company. Like one of the biggest things, I don't know if you heard of the experimental band Coil, English band Coil.
I've heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, they actually did the soundtrack for this movie.
Did they?
But, yeah, no, they no.
They were supposed to.
They were supposed to. They made a soundtrack for it, but then the studio said no, we don't want them, and they got the guy who did the soundtrack for Nightmare on Elm Street and Invaders from Mars, whatever the name of the movie is. Haven't seen it. Yeah, they got him, and I felt that the soundtrack was like really bland, like compared to what it could have been.
Yeah, honestly, I do agree with that. The soundtrack for this movie was very bland. Probably, and you know what? The soundtrack for Nightmare on Elm Street is fine, but because you're using the same guy again, it doesn't give this movie its own originality.
It sounds like another horror movie.
Exactly, because that's what it felt like. So yeah, that's a shame that the studio didn't want them to do their own soundtrack. So I really, it'd be nice to see a remake one day with Clive Barker. Just they wanted to do a remake a few years back.
But that never came to fruition.
It didn't go through.
Mm-hmm.
However, here's the thing though. He did want Coil to perform the music, but some of Coil's songs, they were reworked into the film, into the final score a little bit by the guy who did the by one of the producers. Sorry, not the producers, by Christopher Young. He's the guy who did the Nightmare on Elm Street music. The guy you mentioned. He actually added a little bit of Coil stuff in there, a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
So not to what it could have been essentially. And like I said, I would love to see a remake of this possibly, where Clive Barker could really go crazy and just do whatever he wants. And like, they wanted to do a remake back in like around 2006, but they didn't really. That kind of just fell through.
Last week.
And the issue with that was that there was more creative differences once again, and because the director at the time was this French director called Pascal Laguerre. I might have said that wrong, but he wanted to do a very serious kind of like. And I'm reading this off Wikipedia from what I can see on the remake, because I didn't even know too much about the remake, but he wanted to make it really serious. But the producers of the film wanted to make it more appeal to the teen audience, the typical kind of shit you'd see in theaters with a bunch of teenagers screaming and shit.
Paranormal Activity or something.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked. So maybe one day we'll get a remake. And
Annabelle. Well, no, I just felt like a lot of stuff. Like one of the biggest things I really hate, and this is kind of listed in a lot of people's complaints who reviewed the film already, is that randomly, this movie was, because Clive Barker's English and he wanted to make this movie set in England, right? And I didn't know this at the time of watching this because there was a lot of dubbing going on, like that didn't match with what the actors were saying. I was like, this is obviously dubbed, and it just broke the immersion for me. Come to find out that the reason they did that was because he wanted it in England, but the studio wanted to set it in the United States. So then he made up this. Now the movie is apparently set in like a mid-Atlantic area, like a geographically ambiguous area in the United States. Uh-huh. And they went through and then they dubbed over all the actors' voices, so the British accents would be hidden and they would sound American. For some reason, I thought that was stupid.
They legitimately did that? What the hell?
Yeah. That's the biggest thing. And Clive Barker didn't want to do that. Like, he wanted it in England, but like in order to make it seem like it was in America, they went through and they dubbed it so the actors' British accents would be hidden and they would sound American. I thought that was retarded, and I hated that. So like it went from being set in England, and you can look around and see like the cinematography, and you're like, okay, that's England. But now it's like in some place like on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's a really random dislocation. Oh yeah, you're right about the redubbing.
Where is this? You don't even know what state this is from because there's no landmarks you can film because it's in England. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't know this at the time of filming, so they couldn't prepare for it. So I just thought that was like really crippling.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense because when I was watching the film, I was just like, I was talking to me and JD watched it with me because it was my first time watching it. He wanted to see my reaction, and like. He meant, we were watching it, and he was like, "Oh yeah," like we were discussing like where the hell does this take place? Because when I was watching it, I was looking at the houses and like just the way everything looked, and I was like, "This does not look like the U.S." It looked like
Britain.
Maybe New England, because New England has, like the northern United States and New England has, it's called New England for a reason. It has that that English kind of look to it, but I was like, huh?
Yeah, English kind of architecture, maybe.
Yeah, English architecture, exactly. Yeah, so I did notice that. I didn't notice it was dubbed. There was a few scenes where when they talked, this seemed a bit weird, but now that makes a lot more sense now. That's very bizarre.
Yeah, I thought that was dumb. I was like, and that kind of knocked. That's why this to me, this shit is not a like all these problems. Like this is why this is a 6 out of 10. This could have easily been an 8.
So you're telling me that the version we saw it was dubbed. Like there's no full on.
Yeah, it was dubbed. You didn't notice that?
So there's no. I might have noticed it at certain parts, but I didn't really notice it that much. I wasn't really paying attention much to that.
Not everything was dubbed. I mean, obviously, like the main actors, like I don't know, Christy, whatever her name is.
Ashley Lawrence didn't seem dubbed in the movie.
Lawrence.
She didn't seem
So
tough.
say that.
Was it the other character
No,
that was
she's not
dubbed?
dubbed. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say, and like that's what I'm trying to say. She wasn't dubbed. The evil stepmom, whatever, Julie, I think her name is.
Mhm.
She's not dubbed because she's British, so they kept that. And it was just really off. Like and you know what I mean? Like especially
Yeah.
one of the dumber lines of this movie, like when he hurts his hand and is
She
bleeding, he's like,
sweats.
"Nah, I thought that was all right." One of the ones he said, what did he say? He's like, "Oh, does your hand still hurt or something?" He was like, "Only when I drink." First off, that doesn't make any sense. What you just said. Only when I drink isn't drinking supposed to numb the pain. And second off, I was like, that's when I first noticed that the dubbing, like everything was dubbed. I'm like, okay, that's shit, because it was just so off. It was delayed. Like the audio, he would still be talking. No, the audio would finish, right. He'll say what he said, but then his mouth would still keep moving. So the dubbing was done poorly. Like it was, and it just completely broke the immersion for me. And also, I'm gonna kind of wrap this up a little bit, my negatives, because I feel I've been talking about this for a while. But I feel like a lot of the characters are really boring, and I felt like they were really one dimensional. I feel like all of them were, actually, to be honest with you.
No,
Um,
I do agree.
I
I
did
mentioned earlier, I didn't care for the only character I care for was Kirsty, only because
like,
she's a baby girl. That's it. Just because she's cute, and
yeah, I was like,
I like horror movie leads, and I like her. Okay, but everyone else can eat a dig. Everyone else is kind of boring.
well, yeah, no,
Um,
even her. I thought her characters were boring. Like the characters themselves were boring. I didn't care about any of them. Like they were completely forgettable. Um, I don't know if that's something with the source material, but like just for this movie, I just felt like I did not care about any of the characters, especially like the boyfriend, like he didn't
that shit
really
was
play
lame.
much of a big role. Like
Like,
he didn't really play much of a role at all.
do you remember that one scene? It was really random, and I was talking to JD about it, and I was like, "Why the fuck did that just happen?" It was like it was right after that dinner scene with them all. They're all having dinner at the house, and like with those two, her dad and that other family and whatnot, which was probably the boys' family, and like then afterwards they're just walking
Were
out.
they?
They're, huh?
Were they? Damn, that like I didn't even know that was the boys' family. That's how much like I didn't give a shit about the characters.
Well, who else would they be? There's no other explanation. He was with them, so they had to do
Yeah.
that. But look,
Oh my gosh.
but after that scene, they're just walking around at night on the street for like for like a minute, and then the scene just ends, and I'm like, the fuck was the point of that? To show that they like each other? We already fucking know they like each other.
You felt like there was a lot of filler.
No, just that one
Um,
scene. Just that one scene.
this is one. Yeah, well, those are the big three problems, I guess. Like, and the dumb shit. Like the production company, like he wanted to call it Hellbound, and they wanted it to be Hellraiser. So the production company could really go fuck themselves because they really screwed this guy over. Like this movie could have been way better. You know what I mean?
Who
And
produced it?
like the producer, I think the main producer was Christopher Fig. That was like the main dude.
I'm talking about the company and not the guy.
But yeah, dude, it's
It
just
was like Christopher Fig, but I'm talking about the company. Distributed by Entertainment Film. Oh, production companies was Film Futures, New World Pictures, a bunch of old stuff. Currently, I believe it is currently owned by Dimension Films. I could be wrong. No, well, Dimension Films wanted to do the remake, and Dimension Films is the same fucking company that I believe did the remakes of other things. No, it was Platinum Dunes that did Platinum Dunes did the fucking Nightmare on Elm Street and fucking Friday the 13th remake. That's what that was. What Dimension did? Dimension did Scream 4
yeah. I
and
don't even
stuff like
think
that.
Dimension was around in the 80s.
No,
Were
they
they?
weren't. I'm just saying they wanted to take the rights to
Oh,
Hellraiser
you're
and
talking about the new one. Okay, yeah. Now to see, yeah.
yeah. No. Whatever companies had in the 80s, it was like something way older, and they're not really around too much anymore, as far as I know. But
Good.
it's just
Yeah, but yeah, and then the ending too. Finally, I'm wrapping up my negative thoughts. The ending was forgettable, and I mean that literally. Like I literally forgot what the ending was. Like it was just so, like it was just like I felt like it was anticlimactic as hell.
the
And I
second
feel
one's
like
called Hellbound, right?
yeah, I do know that.
Okay,
Hellbound 2 or whatever, Hellraiser.
it's
But like
Hellraiser 2. It's Hellraiser 2 Hellbound, yeah.
I mean, one of the things I do admire about this movie, I can't even English today, like admire this, but like, no, like what I do admire about this was that they kind of left a lot up to your imagination, as in they didn't really explain what the Cenobites were. There's a lot of ambiguity.
Well, I guess no. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, and
No, I'm saying that's a positive. I'm saying that's a
Oh, sorry, you're
positive.
saying it's a positive. Sorry, yeah, because they explore
Yeah.
that later on. But yeah, that's a good thing.
No, I'm saying that's yeah, because I would like people to think like walk out the theater like, oh, what are they doing, and what do they want, where are they from? Like saying shit like, oh, some people see us as angels and some people see us as demons, like, you know what I mean? Like they're not from. I don't think they're from hell literally. Reading about this, I think they're from some weird dimension where people go to, like, I don't know, like yeah, I don't know.
I honestly think it's just another dimension. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's what I can glean from reading, reading about this. But yeah, dude, like the movie was fun. I wouldn't watch it again. Probably never. But I can see like how it got like a cult following and everything. But yeah, but like, the filmmaking wise, I don't really feel like there was anything interesting done, like with the cinematography. Really, the costume design was like amazing. The soundtrack was kind of really bland. And I just felt like it was. I don't know how this is if this is how the literal story is in the book, but like the plot was just kind of. I felt like I didn't get anything. It was like it wasn't rewarding, like watching it. You know what I mean? I didn't feel like it came to much, but I enjoyed it the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Like
understand.
I literally gave this, like, I would give this the same score or something as like American Werewolf in London.
I fucking hate that movie. So don't even compare that shit to this. Don't even fucking say it's like, oh.
No, I would. Like I would. I'll
Really?
probably give that. I'll probably give this.
I didn't like. I didn't like American Werewolf in London. I know. I don't know why people do. It's just it's a trash.
I don't
film.
like it. I mean, I don't love it. I mean, but it's a 6 out of 10. It's slightly above average.
Okay.
Gotcha. You know what I mean? Slightly. Yeah. So yeah, man. If you haven't seen it before and you want to watch it for Halloween, go for it. You know what I mean? I do recommend it. But I just felt like this movie could have been a lot more. And
yeah, but for what it was, for what we got, it's good. It's just it's just one of those movies that had the potential to become something greater than what it was. But what can you do?
Yeah. So I think do you have anything else to say on it, man, or?
Not really. I got everything I need to say out of the way. I mean, anything else for you?
No, I really can't think of anything, off the top. So I'm just not gonna force it. So yeah, you guys have a good Halloween. I'm sorry we haven't. I'm gonna use this opportunity to clear the air here about like our channel and everything. Yeah. I'm sorry that we haven't been uploading a lot lately. But we've been kind of like busy with a lot of shit. I know you guys don't probably care about that, but it's just life got in the way and everything.
Real life shit, life just got in the way. School, work, stuff like that, and it's difficult to keep making videos all the time. And we want to make more. It's just difficult keeping a schedule or some sort of time when we can all meet up, and we all have different schedules, and but we're gonna try harder, and then if our audience grows, then yes, we'll definitely keep more of a schedule. That way, people aren't just like, where the hell are they?
Yeah, and I Kenny will tell you, I wanted more than anybody to review Medea's Boo 2. So yeah, so
what are you doing tomorrow, man? You want to go see it at the cinema for $5?
Yeah, dude, we can go see it.
Well,
actually, no, I probably can't do it tomorrow.
Why the fuck not?
Dude, you know what? I would be open to it.
I don't want to go see it by myself, dude.
All right, okay. We'll talk. It might be a little surprise review.
I mean, it's only $5 tomorrow. I might be down to watch it. So.
Oh, and then Thor comes out this week too, right?
Yes, me and JD and I are gonna go see Thor when we head to the convention. So we can review that when we come back sometime on Monday or Tuesday. We can review that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Sorry about.
Huh?
Sorry about that, y'all. Yeah, we'll try to be like more consistent. No, I'm talking to them. I'm talking to whoever's watching, like the two people who are watching this. Yeah, we'll try to be more consistent in the future and try to get like an actual schedule going. But it's just kind of hard to balance this a little bit. I'm not complaining. I don't want to make it seem like that, but I'm just trying to make it justify this, like, and kind of explain why we haven't been. It's been almost a month and we haven't put anything up.
I would say 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah, because almost a month. Yeah, because Hellraiser. Because I'm sorry, Blade Runner came out in beginning of October. So yeah, almost a month now.
Yeah, well, that's all I got to say.
Yep. Anyways, guys, happy Halloween. Thanks for watching. Go watch some good movies. We'll be back for good next week, Monday, Tuesday, around that time, because JD and I are going to a convention. We'll be back with a Thor Ragnarok review. Can't even fucking speak today. Thor Ragnarok review. Heard it's getting good reviews so far. And we'll definitely give our thoughts on that, especially coming from someone like me and Jordan that are more comic fans than a Keenan would be. But I want to hear his opinion as well on that. So just as a film in general too.
All right, I'll tune in next week or whenever we make a review.
If you like this, subscribe for more. See you guys later.
All right. Peace.